Hello, friends. Good morning. Welcome to another episode of Q&A session with CHRO. And today we have Mr. Anil Srivastava with us. Thank you, Anil. Thanks for giving us time.
Thanks, Amit. My pleasure.
All right. So participants can start typing their questions in the chat box, and I'll ask Anil for them. So before we begin, Anil, a few words on why growth mindset is important.
Okay. Well, in today's scenario, growth mindset is extremely crucial for not just individual, but even for the organizations. Because the way the overall environment is shaping up, due to which the organizations are getting impacted, and
Mm-hmm.
even the individuals are also getting impacted. It is not a choice. It
Mm-hmm.
is very important for sustenance and also from a survival perspective.
Mm-hmm.
In a very layman terms, when we talk about a growth mindset, it to me means as an organization or as an individual, somebody who is able to think ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, as an organization and also an individual, there is a kind of a plan which makes organization as well as the individual prepared for the uncertainties which are going to come at the individual as well as the organizational level. And there will
Mm-hmm.
be a lot of variables which are going to be very crucial when we talk about this growth mindset. So I'm sure in our conversation further, we are
Mm-hmm.
going to dwell further on it.
Very nice. All right. See, you mentioned uncertainties and very many variables which are outside one's control. As a result, what is happening is that the shelf life of skills is getting reduced. So, when you're interviewing somebody, how much importance do you give to learning agility of the person vis-a-vis the skills, technical skills that the person may have?
Okay. Uh, Again, a very important area for the individuals and even from the hiring managers organization standpoint. So typically, when I do any conversations for the interviews, typically what I look at is not for the current role for which I'm having the discussions, but also taking a view of a runway which the individual possesses, and I get a view of that runway during that conversation. So in those conversations, we get an idea how the individual is placed, whether the individual is just very block and only for their current learning, for their current kind of skills role, or whether the individual in the past has also worked something which gives him or her the runway, and I as a hiring manager or the organization gets a view that this individual probably may not be just fit for my current requirement,
Mm-hmm.
but also can be the one who can be groomed even for the potential roles which are going to emerge in the organization. So
Okay.
that's something which specifically I focus on. And even as an organization, as a interest or as a flow tech, we give a lot of emphasis to it because in that way,
Mm-hmm.
the individual is not just getting selected for the current requirement for which I'm having the discussions.
Can you give us an example, Anil?
Okay, sure. So, take for instance, I uh, take a position within the supply chain area,
Mm-hmm.
and there is a requirement of an individual who is working in the logistics area, and I have the requirement in the logistics area.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one way is that I close that position with somebody who has the knowledge of inbound as well as outbound logistics. Another view is to look at the overall experience in totality and seeing that the individual earlier had worked in procurement, raw material purchase, and then also subsequently had moved into logistics area.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this gives me an overall view of what the individual possesses in terms of the skills and the experience.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I view my overall organization, how the entire supply chain management portfolio is placed.
Mm-hmm.
What are the different kind of a work which happens within the supply chain management? How is the overall career map of the people who work within my supply chain management?
Mm-hmm.
So if there is an individual who shows me a promise, not just about his or experience on the logistics area,
Mm-hmm.
but either by virtue of their past experience in the other areas,
Mm-hmm.
or have done some working and are pretty open
Mm-hmm.
to move even to the other areas going forward, then
Mm-hmm.
I will give a due weightage to it. And when I am going to close that particular
Mm-hmm.
candidature, probably I, along with the other managers, we may also really mention that going forward, even this individual can also be groomed for probably raw material purchase roles or
Mm-hmm.
stores roles because of their
Mm-hmm.
past experience and
Mm-hmm.
also the linkages within the entire supply chain ecosystem. So this is
Mm-hmm.
just a brief example which I've given to you on that.
So, are we saying, or is the world moving towards a scenario where a person who has worked into various related sub departments in the main department will be more valuable or will be slightly more attractive than a person who has only worked in one sub department or in the larger department? Is the world moving towards that?
Okay, so Amit, it's about how an individual manages the career.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a due importance even to the specialist, irrespective of the functions in which we are working in.
Mm-hmm.
So demand for specialists surely are going to be there. But at the same time, we see from an individual career trajectory,
Mm-hmm.
initially the individual should have a know-how of their entire functions and the different areas within the functions. So
Mm-hmm.
whether the individual is working in sales, marketing, supply chain, or for that matter, HR,
I understand.
or controlling finance. And then subsequently, over a period of time, when the person
Mm-hmm.
is moving up in the career, the individual either may develop an interest towards two, three specialized areas.
Mm-hmm. I understand.
And that really sets the base for his or her future career. So it's all about how do we manage the careers and what are the different assignments which we take, different projects which we take apart from my core role, which make me a suitable
I understand.
candidate or maybe a suitable employee either for the movements within the organization or probably across the organizations.
I understand. So they have to be expert in the core area first, and then rest everything is separate. I understand. Okay. So what is
Sorry,
the
just I wanted to make a correction. Initially, in the
initially?
early phase of the career, it has to be ideally exposure across the areas. If the
Okay.
individual is getting a chance to have a know-how on the couple of areas, and then over a period of time, the person develops his interest or her interest
Mm-hmm.
in two, three areas within his specialization and develops a core expertise
Mm-hmm.
and then further takes off either in the specialized area and makes a specialist kind of a roles or subsequently move into a general management kind of a roles or within the function takes up a role which requires the expertise on one or two areas and a know-how across the areas of the function.
Very right. Very right. So another question, Anil, what is the most effective way for an employee to demonstrate growth mindset without sounding like they are constantly failing or learning from their mistakes?
Amit, can you repeat the question?
What is the most effective way in which an employee can demonstrate growth mindset without
Okay.
sounding like that they are constantly failing or they are constantly making mistakes and they are saying that I'm learning from my mistakes because of my growth mindset, so I don't
Okay.
mind failing and it's okay to fail. So they should not, without sounding like that, how can they demonstrate growth mindset?
Okay, it's a very powerful question, and I think all of us uh, probably would have dwelled on this area at any stage of the career. Now, to me, I think it's about the individual self-reflection and assessment of how the individual is placed. Second is to do a good calibration of their strengths and what are the areas which probably are not their strong areas, but they would like to work on those areas. And then the third part is to take a baby steps towards the areas in which they subsequently also want to build the expertise. So when I say baby steps, it means I will not really take a steps which is going to really put me at a risk, but I'm taking those small steps where there is a comfort in terms of being successful, and the probability of being successful is more as compared to a probability of failing on those kind of assignments. So I think that's a very judicious kind of a call or the assessment which the individual will have to take while showing that growth mindset within the organizations and looking up for those kind of either assignments or showing up for some of the work which is coming within the function or probably within the organization. So a very simple uh, method, I would say, by which the individual can do that assessment.
All right. Very nice. Very nicely answered, Anil. So participants can keep on writing their questions in the chat box. So one question, Anil, that in your experience, how can we reframe the annual performance discussions to focus more on adaptability, potential, rather than just focusing on whether the person is hitting the KPIs or not?
Okay. Now, this entire performance appraisal and the way the appraisal works in the organizations are also very different. Now, one very conventional approach is that I work for the entire year, and then at the end of the year, there are some set goals against which my manager and I am going to have a conversations,
Correct.
and then I'll get some view about it. That's a very conventional way of the entire appraisals which are done. Now, to your point, there are a couple of things which are very important and which a lot of progressive organizations also trying to it. So, one is these appraisals are not becoming a month, yearly kind of an affair. A lot of organizations I've seen is getting converted into either a quarterly check-ins
Mm-hmm.
because the goals are also becoming very dynamic. It's
Correct.
not the goals with which we started at the beginning of the year.
Correct.
And at the end of the year, we probably are going to realize there are a lot many other things which I've done beyond what was getting fixed at the beginning of the year.
Correct.
Secondly, in those dynamic kind of a working, there are a lot of things which are getting gauged in the organizations by managers, by
Mm-hmm.
the stakeholders.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, the I would say either it's in terms of the values of the traits like adaptability or showing my passion, working seamlessly. All these are the kind of behaviors which really get demonstrated while I'm really working on it. Now there are two ways specifically which the organizations can look at it. Now, one is the goals. Now, second part is how the goals are achieved.
Okay.
As an organization, if the focus is entirely on the outcomes and not the focus on the how part of it, then
Mm-hmm.
I feel then there is an element, or I would say very important elements, which are getting missed in the organizations or even by the
Mm-hmm.
people managers. So
Mm-hmm.
there has to be a due emphasis on that how part of it. And a lot of times, this how part may either be getting demonstrated by the assessment of the values.
Mm-hmm.
So, a lot of organizations, apart from the goals, also assess each employee on the values, how the individual has
Mm-hmm.
worked on the values,
Mm-hmm.
and what are the specific behaviors which have been demonstrated due to which some deliverables have been achieved.
Mm-hmm.
What is the specific work which have really been done?
Mm-hmm.
And during those performance conversations,
Mm-hmm.
either the manager is passing the inputs that these are the traits which in terms of either as you were mentioning adaptability or
Mm-hmm.
showing my passion
Mm-hmm.
may be mentioned, or otherwise it may be also a scenario where somebody is telling, okay, hey guy, you may be achieving the deliverables,
Mhm.
But the way it's getting achieved, there are some of the things which need to really be done.
Mhm.
So that is one of the important area by which this can be reinforced.
Mhm.
Second thing is, while even framing the the expectations for the year,
Mhm.
I feel it's also important to really put emphasis on some specific initiatives which the individual is going to
Mhm.
spend his time in the
Mhm.
organizations. Apart from fixed goals, I
Mhm.
think each one of us get a chance to work on
Mhm.
things which are beyond my designated goal, which has
Okay.
been defined. It can be cross-functional. It can be beyond the my role within the function
Mhm.
itself. So how the individual has shown up,
Okay.
and that also should be given emphasis in the overall kind of an assessment.
Very
Third
nice.
part which you mentioned was about a kind of a potential part of it.
Mhm.
Now, typically, your performance appraisals are not meant to gauge the potential part of it unless
Mhm.
we are talking also about promotions, or we are talking about the entire talent management system where
Mhm.
performance is just one of the input which is going
Mhm.
in in terms of gauging the potential of the individual. So
Mhm.
those are the other mechanisms which need to be looked at, and how those systems are being institutionalized in the organization.
Very powerful. Very right. All right. So, in the second example which you gave, uh, cross-functional, should the person also ask in case there are no implementable tasks apart from the KPIs which are being given? Should that person make an effort to ask for such tasks, like some cross-functional projects or something? Or
Right. Now, we all would have seen the organizations. There are individuals who will be pretty comfortable there in their own cocoons,
Mhm.
and there'll be individuals who will show their interest towards learning new things, who will show their interest towards doing something beyond what
Mhm.
is expected from them. And there also will be the individuals who even will take a very stretch assignments, which are going to make them prepare for their future kind of a roles. So this entire thing starts with I. So I, as an individual, what is the effort which has really been made? So whether it's about showing up for these cross-functional assignments or any other projects or any other small activities, task which are getting done in the organization. So ultimately, it's about the point of what the individual is doing beyond what has been designated in a very formal way for for that individual within the organization. So these are small things which gives a good idea to a line manager about how their team members are placed, and what each team member also brings to the table in terms of their interest, in terms of their learning curve.
Very nice, very nice. And also another question, Anil, when the let's say an employee's career hits a career plateau and there is no
Mhm.
immediate upward movement, how
Okay,
can growth mindset be used to create a lateral movement which eventually leads to a better trajectory?
okay. I think there is a role which the organizations also have to play. The people managers within the organization have to play. And third, another big stakeholder is the HR. So I would say these three stakeholders have got a very important role in managing the situation which you are mentioning. So first is about the organizations. What is the messaging which is getting done in the organizations in terms of how the career management happens in that organizations? What are typically the kind of success stories which are getting demonstrated in that organizations? Are there success stories which are only talking about a vertical movement, or are there a success stories which are also talking about an individual who has really worked in a horizontal kind of a roles, even really moved one level down in terms of learning? in terms of learning and then moved up, which in turn helped the individual from a career standpoint. So that ecosystem is very important. And what is the kind of a messaging which is happening in the organization? So that's number one. Second is uh, the individual sees all these things from the eyes of the manager. So how the manager shows up and passes these messages, manages the career is equally important. And if there is a due emphasis which is there with the support of a manager and also the individual gets a guidance, then people also will open up to really take up roles which are parallel roles, but still are very valuable from my own learning perspective. And the individual is very clear why he's moving or she is moving in those kind of roles. What is the overall learning objective behind that? Or if the individual is taking up a one level down kind of a role just because in his entire or her career he didn't got an opportunity to experience that role. So now the individual is experiencing it and then gradually getting prepared for a longer run. So last but not the least is the role of the HR. So what is the communication mechanism which is there from the HR to the organizations? Are there supporting initiatives, or are they supporting systems or specific processes which are helping the individuals to get the clarity, do their own assessment, and then accordingly working the organization to achieve what they really want to achieve? So all three have got a very important role. And I think the organizations which have done their these all movements become a norm, and it's not really seen from a taboo perspective that the individual has really taken up a role which is now one level down and then the moving up. So these all stakeholders have got a very important role to manage this kind of situation. And at individual levels, specifically the situations which you mentioned about a career plateau and all this are very comfortably mentioned. So that's what I wanted to mention through this entire
Correct.
equation.
Very nice. All right. So let's say an employee has been passed over for a promotion. He didn't get the promotion, somebody else got it. So, what growth mindset questions should this individual ask the hiring manager so that the next time when the opportunity comes, he ensures that he gets the promotion?
Okay, now this again is a very typical situation in the organizations, and especially uh, most of the organizations in another couple of months, or probably now only, this appraisal period and all that is going to really start. Now, first is the understanding within the organization of what promotions actually mean and how the organization is viewing these promotions. So that to me is the first and the prime most point. A lot of organizations, the promotions really mean moving across the levels, moving across the designations. And that's what the individuals will be gunning for. Second part is also to really see whether even there are roles which are getting changed, or is it just a mere designation which is getting changed. So am I not happy or happy with a change of from a title, but role remains the same, the role content remains the same, or am I happy with role getting changed, designation getting changed, and I'm myself convinced, okay, this I'm doing a justice to what my level within the organization, the kind of responsibilities which have really been mentioned. So that's the first part of it. Now, second part to what you specifically mentioned, especially for middle level, senior kind of roles. And luckily, just 2 days back only within the organization, I was having this conversation with one of the talented employee on the similar subject. Now, two parts to it. One is about the expectations which are there from the individual, or there are some kind of goals which are there. I'm achieving it. I'm thinking I'm ready for the next kind of a role. So a lot of times, because of my high performance, I think that I should really be promoted to the next level. But that's where the real point comes of performance and potential. So to one of your previous question, here comes a very important area. Am I, as an organization, first of all, promoting somebody only on account of performance, keeping aside the potential part of it? Second part is, uh, there are kind of a role, especially middle senior levels, where the entire responsibilities, the entire expectations really get changed when the individual moves to that kind of a role.
Correct.
So, in my current role only, am I showing that kind of a comfort promise to my stakeholders, due to which they think that the individual is not just a high performer, but also showing already to me a potential to take on that role. And that becomes very, very important. So at an individual level, it's important to really do their reflection, even much before they are thinking about their promotions. They should really have these kind of a conversations during their reviews as well, and have a very candid conversations with the managers about what is the current desired level of working and the performance expectations which are there, and also get an idea about what are the expectations really at the next level. And suppose the next level is actually of his own boss,
Mhm.
the individual should actually see what are typically the kind of work which his boss does. And on a very practical front, to some of these conversations, I had told some of uh, the people with whom I had interacted to start with even first looking at the JD of their bosses.
Okay.
What
Very
exactly is
nice.
figuring in their JD? How is their current JDs placed?
Mhm.
What are some of the things which they have to do? They can make the learning plan and have a very frank discussions with the managers and start working on it, rather than directly one day during promotion discussions. It's only a discussion about whether I got it or not. So this is what is a very practical way to look at this part, rather than getting very dejected by being promoted or not, of not really being promoted.
See, sometimes lots of fixed mindset thoughts start coming in a person who has been bypassed. Like you said, instead of doing all these things, the thoughts which may come is that because the person who got promoted is very sycophantic of my boss, so that is why he has been promoted. Or because my organization thinks that I will not leave even if I am bypassed, but the other person will leave even if he is not promoted, so that is why he is promoted. Or because organization thinks that I'll just toe the line, so that is why I am not promoted. So all these kinds of fixed mindset thoughts, they start, the individual starts thinking of that. So how to avoid that?
Okay. Now I'll give you a very frank and a very crude answer to it. Whether for an individual, promotion is the destination
Correct.
or it's still a part of the journey. That is the first thing. Second part is, uh, we are talking about our professional careers. And when we are talking about professional careers, the lifespan of these careers are not just confined to 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. It's 25, 30 years, 3 decades, more than 3 decades of careers which the individuals are there. And what I see nowadays, people with 5, 7 years getting dejected to the core of not being promoted or not get titles. And one of the simple thing which I tell them is about the runway which they have at their hand,
Correct.
and to have a little longer view of how the career looks like. What is the sketch of the career which they want to make? And is there any visualization to it? And they start working towards it. I'm sure If it's not about a 1 year, for example, if we talk about promotions, probably it will be next year which is going to work. But fundamentally, at the ground level, nothing which is going to change. He or she should continue to work on building their skills, building the learning curve. Because if the individual is good, naturally there'll be an acknowledgement of that, either within the organization or probably outside the organization. So individual will have to think it from a little broader mindset, and should start working in that frame.
Correct. Correct. All right. So one question is, Anil, that I work in a typical Indian organization which is very rigid and siloed. What should be my growth mindset approach here?
Okay, okay. Oh, that's a beautiful question. So the organizations are of different kind, and there will be a reason why the organization is of that kind. Either on account of the way structure has been created, because somebody thinks that's the best way to serve the customers. There will be another organization which will be structured in a different way. So if I'm joining the organization, first of all, I need to accept the organization the way it is, because organization comes first. And we all working the organization are part of the ecosystem. So it's very important to, first of all, accept the organization the way it is, but most importantly, understand why the organization is the way it is. I'm sure there'll be a lot of reasons to it. Either there'll be a legacies to it, or there will be changes which have happened in the business model due to which the organization is placed in that way. So it's very important. A lot of times, what I have seen, probably I think we have also gone through the journey. We always
Correct.
tend to compare our previous organization or previous organization to the current organization, and we
Correct.
tend to make a conclusion that my previous organization, this is the way it used to happen. Now this organization, this is the way it's happening. Now we tend to forget that there are organizations which are different, and the DNA of the organization is being made in that way because of some specific reasons. And if I'm not able to understand the reasons, I will not be able to understand how I should work in that organization, and how do I start making my presence felt in that organization, and how can I even grow in the organization. So that's the most important thing. Second thing is, if we have understood the first step, for example, how the decisions are made in the organizations, how the individuals make a influence, if they have to really drive some of the decisions in this organization, how does it really work? These all things are very important to really understand how the individuals have building their careers there. What are really some of the past stories which I'm able to get or accumulate by observations or by experiences. I can really connect with the people who have really joined a long time back, who joined recently, and how they have really grown up. All these inputs collectively are going to give me a good a menu, if I have to use the word, to start moving forward, and take away concrete steps due to which I will be and can be successful even in this kind of an organizations. Each organization is unique in their way. There are people who have built their careers in those
Mm-hmm.
organizations.
Mm-hmm.
So why an individual probably is going to really refrain himself or herself
Mm-hmm.
just because the individual thinks that's a X kind of organization, and this is the way it happens.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very important to ask some hard hitting questions to individual
Mm-hmm.
himself or herself, and then
Mm-hmm.
start working towards it.
Very nice. So ultimately, the responsibility lies inward on how you should behave in any situation, because that is what growth mindset is all about, rather than looking external. That very nice. All right. So another question, Anil. See, growth mindset requires taking risks, but in the corporate scenario, taking risk of failures is, very dangerous. It can be dangerous. So, how do you differentiate between a noble failure and a careless mistake?
Okay, okay. Well, we touched a bit on this subject in our earlier questions.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, I would mention it starts again with I and having a good calibration of how I am currently placed.
Mm-hmm.
If I am a person who wants to grow fast and very much aware about my skills and can take up a leap in terms of kind of assignment, which is a high stake assignment, and the risk and reward failure are of the similar kind, then the individual will work accordingly.
Okay.
So all in the organization there will be different kind of assignments are there. There are different kind of opportunities on which the individual can show up. But what I should go for and what I should not really go for, and at what pace should I go, lies with me. It's
Correct.
about my decision. And probably there'll be people within the organization. It can be my mentor, it can be my immediate managers who probably can guide me that this is something which will work for me, and this is going to help me to reach or get this kind of a learning. All this is going to happen, but at the same time is the individual who ultimately will have to take a call and will have to take a realistic call
Mm-hmm.
or what will work and why it will work, and he or she needs to take the actions accordingly. That's what I would say.
And I think if the intentions are right, then they are palpable. If the intentions are good, even if you
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
all right, all right. So see, growth mindset says that I should be open about what I don't know,
Hmm.
but at the same time, in a corporate environment, I need to exude executive presence and confidence. So can I be too open about my vulnerability that I don't know? How do I balance that?
Okay. Okay. Good. Interesting question. And I would say even each one of us would have gone through this stage as well. Now, this is something which is very crucial. And you talked about two things in your question. One is about how I've been perceived by others in the environment, and at the same time, how should I be frank enough or transparent enough to mention that this is what the individual is all about in terms of their knowledge, in terms of their skills and experience, and this is what is not known to the individual. Now, each one of us are playing a certain kind of a role in the organizations. And we are sitting in those roles assuming that the individual will have those desired set of knowledge, skills, and those kind of an ability. And if basis that assessment, either the individual will be possessing those skills, but maybe having some kind of a gaps, then it's very important to either communicate in a way so that the other stakeholders understand that there is a more clarification which is really required, or uh, more idea needs to be given to that individual in order to really take a call about the area on which the individual asset is going to work. Second part, which is there completely at the individual level in this situation, I either also start working at the back end towards building some of those skills or the experience which is expected at my level. Probably in my earlier phases of the career,
Mm-hmm.
I would have missed out
Mm-hmm.
learning about those things.
Mm-hmm.
But now I am holding a role where all these things are expected from me.
Mm-hmm.
And that learning probably can happen even from my own team members.
I understand.
To your question, we probably can talk about the distant stakeholders at a little later level.
Mm-hmm.
This situation what you're talking about sometimes happen within the team. Can I ask within my own team members who are pretty good in their own space, but I
Mm-hmm.
have not done it. So I'll take a practical example of HR only. Now, there's some individuals who probably would not have got a chance to work on how the payroll is processed. What are the checks and balances which are required? But after a period of time, they probably are sitting at a role where payroll, HR operations, even there are a lot many other things. HR analytics is part of their desired role. Now, in that case, either I'll give a view to my team that I have a strong expertise in that, and leave everything to that individual. Or the second thing is to work with a team member who's a very strong in payroll, ask, clarify the questions, so that you get a confidence that you are able to manage the payroll. Nobody's telling me to execute the payroll, but I should be in a position to manage that entire process of the program, and what are the checks and balances to do it. So naturally I will have to do some homework at my own end, but at the same time, how do I engage with the team member so that individual team member is also taking in a positive way,
Mm-hmm.
and overall teams are also working in an environment where anybody and everybody can learn from each other.
How should I
That
ask?
is a very important thing.
How should I ask? How
Sorry.
should I ask? How should I ask my junior about something I don't know? What is the best way? Or again, it's not a one-time thing. I have to build that culture within my team to be able to do that.
Right. One of the important thing which I tell the team members is first of all that they for their respective areas are the HR heads.
Okay.
Second important thing is if they are the HR of that areas, the assumption is that they will be more experts in that area as compared to me. So then it also means that there will be something which I'm going to learn from them. They in turn will learn from me, and overall within the team we are going to learn from each other. So that
Very
is
nice.
the flavor which needs to be passed within the team, so that nobody feels it either being offended or feels it more like a situation where they feel little dejected by asking a question which should not really be asked. So it's all about how a leader is creating that environment, how
Mm-hmm.
the individual is positioning himself or herself while learning something, but at the same time not giving the feeling that this is something which can't be learned at this stage of a career in the life.
Very nice. So creating that environment is the real growth mindset.
Correct, correct.
All right. So another question, Anil, how do you, how should one differentiate between stretching oneself for growth and pushing oneself towards burnout? So on one side, I need to stretch for growth, but on the second hand, am I pushing myself towards a burnout? And secondly, what would be your advice on how to use growth mindset during periods of high stress?
Okay. Now, to your first question, it's very important how the individual is placed. And when I say how the individual is placed, it means both on the professional as well as on personal front. At our different stages of our professions and the careers, there will be a time where probably my focus will be more towards my personal commitments,
Mm-hmm.
and little less focus towards on the professional front. So at that point of time, if the individual will try to balance both, sometimes there will be a challenge and there will be a stage of a burnout to which
Mm-hmm.
you were mentioning. So it's very important to look at both our professional and personal things in totality
Mm-hmm.
and make a good judgment of how the individual is placed. I've seen a lot of people, including a lot of senior people,
Mm-hmm.
also would have gone through the stage. And it's always okay to really be lying a little low
Mm-hmm.
during those phases where my family needs more time.
Mm-hmm.
And on the professional front, I am okay in terms of meeting what the base
Mm-hmm.
level requirement is there. But once those personal things are being met, and I'm back with full rigor and energy, enthusiasm, then the tracks probably can be changed. And I can really work on the assignment so that I'm able to catch up either in terms of the time or even with my other peers who have moved little higher. So during that time, there will be now a focus more towards my professional commitments
Hmm.
and maybe a little less on the personal things. So it's all about taking a due call, keeping our overall commitments into account. And I don't think so. If an individual has done a good assessment of these things, there will be a situation of a burnout which may happen.
Very nicely answered, Anil. All right, another question. So, what is one trait which you use to differentiate people who belong to the C-suite category and mid-level? So, how do you differentiate that one trait? Is it growth mindset towards people, or is it mindset towards technology, towards innovation? What differentiates mid-level people from the C-suite people out of these two?
So I'd say it's a combination of both. We will not be able to take only one particular aspect as a standalone point. It's a combination of both because the people at the C-suite level are responsible for managing, if we say, for example, an SBU or maybe a P&L account, and these all are possible with the people. And at the same time, uh, also an individual is able to think ahead from how the business is moving, does it take to take the business from this level to the next level. So it's a combination purely of both these things, which really makes individual falling in that particular league, which we call it as a C-suite level, and the leaders who are falling in that kind of a level.
All right, so a related question, Anil, to your last answer, when we were talking about being open and exuding confidence. So, a pointed question that I've been offered a promotion, but I feel internally that I'm not ready.
Mhm.
I still haven't mastered the skills. What do I do about? How do I go about it?
Okay. I think would be happening to a lot of people, but I'm still figuring out whether anybody would have mentioned no to that kind of situation. But let me put it in two different forms because the situations in two different situations and the response may be different. So one is the situation which you're mentioning within the organization where the individual has got a chance to be promoted, but basis his or her own assessment, thinks that still it's a time to be ready for that. And another situation, there is a role which is not falling within the organization,
Hmm.
is falling outside the organization, and somebody is reaching out for taking up that kind of a role. Now, in both the situations, probably the answers may be different, and the question is why. The now it's all about the probability and also getting connected to one of the questions previously asked. In the existing organization, the individual is familiar with how the organizations work. So we talked about
Correct.
knowing about the organizations, the ecosystem, the organizations. Second is the familiarity of the stakeholders, which is also there. So even if the individual is maybe 70-80% ready for the role, which is we are saying is a role which I'm
Internal role.
getting after being promoted, then also the probability of me being successful is high because I can quickly learn those skills, can latch on to the experience, although at least the ecosystem, the stakeholders are familiar, so I can catch up with it, and I probably can even take it because of the support of these other environment. But in the other situation, where again the role is a higher up kind of a role, but everything is probably new, and uh, and the stakes are pretty high. So what do we do? Should I take up a role just because there is a good amount of a package which has been mentioned, and there's a good organization, but I have completely ignored I part of it. And believe it or not, I had landed up in this situation in my career, especially on the part two, where from the from the outside perspective, the the partners had reached out to me for for some of those roles. Everything looked pretty fine on the paper, but I have said no because basis my own assessment, I felt that I probably was not ready that point of time for those roles. So it's better to be there in the current system and take risk, make mistakes, and still that will be part of the learning within the familiar system. But in an unfamiliar environment, the stakes will be pretty high.
Correct. Very nicely
So,
answered.
so that's the way I wanted to summarize it, and probably it will give the answer to a lot of the questions which we had earlier discussed.
Correct. All right. So you gave the personal example on you refused a role. Can you give one more example from your career, Anil, where your fixed mindset was holding you back? And then what was the aha moment where you realized that because of this mindset issue, you are not moving forward, and then you removed that, and then you started, on the runway.
Yes, yes, yes. Uh, yes, I think couple of situations I experienced, but I'll tell one of the situation where I was working in a very big group and very comfortable in terms of all the benefits which the company gives. Job security is there, but somehow I felt that learning plateau probably is going to stagnate or will slow down, because in today's world even the learning curve has to be higher because there are people who are learning fast, applying that learning in the practical environment is also getting fast. So it's very important to have a look into it. So that is one set of scenarios there. On the other hand, I was getting a chance to move into a role completely new, but in terms of learning and making an impact, very high. Uh, Although the risk element also was there. But here comes the point, at what stage are we ready to take that kind of a risk, keeping our both professional and personal aspects into account? So, despite of lot of pushbacks, either even at my own personal family level or even my other own mentors, I took up for that challenge because I was able to visualize what are the possible stakes, what is the worst thing which probably is going to happen. So I'd visualized everything to it. And what are the things which positively can happen? So I felt that after my assessment that I should go for it. And it worked. The learning which probably in a organization would have taken maybe 4 to 5 years, probably here took me just 2.5 years, 3 years to get all those experiences, very unique kind of a challenges, never experienced, but made me wonder, connect with my peer group, with my seniors, with my mentors to work on those solutions, and it worked.
Very
So
nice.
that's what happened in one of the situation from my own career. So I just wanted to mention that.
Very nice. All right. So we are just about to, I mean, we have been talking for an hour almost, Anil. So you, in the last answer you gave, you also mentioned the ability to visualize all the scenarios, the ability to think, and mentors. So having a mentor or having mentors and spending time contemplating your career or thinking about your career. No, normally when I in my workshops when I ask people, I did it for a very large PSU. When I asked that in the last 1 year, how many of you at least spend half an hour thinking about your career? Nobody raised their hands. So, people are not, I mean, either the life has become so fast that people just don't spend time, detailed time, deep dive into their career planning and the skill gap and the goal setting and all. So, that, how important is that? Just to finish the last question, and having mentors.
Okay. So, to the first point, it's very important to understand that what is a job and what is a career. And probably all the opportunities may not give you a career, they may give you a job.
Correct.
So it's very important to differentiate when somebody is taking the next assignment, what they're heading for. Are they getting a job, or are they getting the huge canvas which will help them to build a career? So that is very important thing. Second thing is to look at what career means to me and having a clarity about it, because the answer is not so easy. It will require a lot of reflection, a lot of thoughts, knowing self, knowing my own, or in fact, doing my own sort and getting a good view about myself, and then marching forward towards what does it take to build a career. So all that is very, very important. Now, to have a understanding of what career means, sometimes even the mentors or our guides play a very important role, because they have seen it and their wisdom matters a lot to us. So when we connect with them, they will be able to connect with their own real life examples and experiences, and will be able to share with us. So whatever the kind of notions, preconceived notions, doubts which you're going to have, probably can be clarified by the guides, coaches, and mentors. And their role is of paramount importance in the professional space, and I would say in the personal space. I leverage a lot my own mentors and coaches, probably on different even areas and the themes, and they literally help us of not just becoming a good professional, but even becoming a good person of who we
Correct.
are. As
Correct.
simple as that. So that's the way I'm going to summarize it.
Thank you, Anil. Thanks for patiently answering all the questions. So nice of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Amit. My pleasure. Thank you.